Update.
Good timing. We're
Yeah.
there. All right. Perfect. Welcome to the council chambers and mayor's update. It was exciting in here last night.
It was. Yeah.
We,
A lot of stuff got done. A lot of
heavy lifting last night, 3 or 4 different meetings, but the most important one was the 2024 budget. And council agreed, and we brought it all in, including the capital expenditures and the operating budget for City of St. Thomas last night at 2.95%.
and I've got a presentation here I can actually throw up.
let's
So we
throw
can let's go
up.
through some numbers here.
Yeah.
Let me just pull this all together here. All right. So this is the 2024 proposed budget that you were given.
Yes.
And you're saying this is actually passed now.
Well, the whole budget passed with some small modifications from last night. And I'll tell you, the small modifications made the tax bill for average houses in our community smaller.
Okay.
So we'll think of it that way. We cut nothing big out of the budget to achieve that. We have some funds on hand for the modification of tax increases or decreases, and we're going to use that reserve fund to make the difference this year from where we started about 3.4% down to 2.95. So we got it below 3%, which is, we thought, with the way inflation's been, is the right place to be this year. So,
Now, how did you get it to that low of a number?
well, we looked at what we had from a capital budget point of view and said, there's some really big projects on there. Is there any one which we don't want to do? And said, no, we want to do them all. We still want to keep the capital budget at that size. Well, was there some savings we could do? And we found some small little savings on if we, and I will say that today we passed the budget last night. So almost every department that's got a project on the capital budget list put out their RFPs today. Now, what happens, and that really helps us every year, we get our RFPs out for that's a request for proposal. Like last year, Talbot Street, we were the first to the street with a large construction project, and so it came in cheaper. So some of the money we're looking for may not end up coming out of reserves. It may come out of savings we find on some of these plans, or an opposite that's happened in a couple years. We save this money on some of our large capital projects, like buying a new fire engine or building a training center, that we can then say, okay, it's July or August. There's still time left in the construction season. Is there something on the capital list that didn't get accepted that we could now move up and do with the savings from getting out early? So all of those things are great. I have to compliment all of council last night. A very cohesive group in saying, this is the number we kind of want to get to. How will we get there? And what are the projects that we're looking at? Certainly, we still want to build a couple more supportive, affordable housing units, right? But do they have to be in the capital budget? No, we put them into the debt side to say that if indeed we find federal and provincial money to help us build some of those supportive housing units, we'll find our money to do them. The same thing with the donations towards the hospice. We've already, obviously the city's already done a pretty good job of donating the land and the development charges for the hospice. But and the MRI machine for the hospital is also one that they've come to us with an ask. We said, we'll talk about it during budget. So we did last night. And we've committed the funds to both of those projects, but starting in 2025. Each of the projects can still grow with us starting to make contributions to them in 2025. So let us have this kind of transition year. We all know St. Thomas is growing like you wouldn't believe. And some of the funds we had, and you can see it here on your screen, the recommended increase total for what we're going to spend this year, some $69 million here in the city of St. Thomas, was really a 6.5% increase in taxes. But because of the growth in our community, so the 2003 impact on growth, the building permits that have gone out, the new buildings that'll be up paying taxes, and that type of thing. This is with nothing having to do with Volkswagen. That took another couple of percent off that 6% and got us to the 3.4 something we started last night, with the thought around the table that we could get below 3. If we get below 3, then people's taxes this year will be a very understandable, about $8 a month difference on the average house price in St. Thomas.
Because
So
your actual number was 2.9 something.
2.95 is where we got to. Yep.
2.95% increase.
Yep, and that's we know that will be among the lowest across Ontario. And part of that is this planned growth, the exceptional growth St. Thomas has been seeing at this time, and that helps pay some of those bills, even though it started much higher than that. We know new taxes coming on board next year for some of the new things that are happening in our community, new buildings, new apartment buildings, new commercial. We know that that's paying bills going into the future too. So, and a great capital expenditure list of,
Yeah.
I don't know, millions.
So what are we talking about?
Seven. We will, here's the two major ones. Obviously, we do a number of construction projects, and the Kane, Scott Street, Curtis Street construction process, even though we'll talk about it again next Monday to talk about the roundabout at Kane's and what was discovered during the public meeting and make that decision. The rest of the streets need to get their work done. This was a project for 2 years ago with sewer pipes and water pipes and such under the ground. And funny enough, thank you, Curtis Street, or not thank you, Curtis Street. We have a water main break on Curtis Street as of last weekend. Yeah. That occurred, and if it had been colder, that would have been quite the mess out there. So we know we've got to get underground on Curtis, Scott, Main Street to make sure all of that stuff gets done in 2024. So that RFP will go out this week to make sure that we get first on the books to some of that work. We have something else we call like basic, complete streets program. And you see us doing little bits of sidewalk repairs and little bits of street repairs and little bits of curb repairs and stuff. And that's a huge one that is part of our budget, 9.2 million going into next year. So that's a fair bit. I did talk about a fire truck. We've got a fire truck, an animal shelter. Yeah, an animal shelter completely in the budget, going out under its well, we know we can do it under this RFP because we've had it come back too high last year. Put the extra money in, get that done. Different housing developments. We as we talked, whether it's social housing or supportive housing. How about under Parks and Rec? A pile of stuff. Memorial Arena, some video cameras, some new lighting, Pinafore Park security fence, athletic field maintenance on Emsley Field. There's work that needs to be done there. That's lighting. The old you remember the night we're out there doing the drones and stuff. Yeah. Those lights are super bright, but they've got some very old ballasts in them. And just one of these times they're going to go and they're not repairable the way they are. So we're putting the new ballast into those lighting. Some playground replacements across town. Trail development in Cowan Park and in Shaw Valley. Just some really great stuff. Good forward thinking, and we'll continue as we carry into our new strategic plan, talk about how much of that is recreation, how much of that is housing, how much of it is street repair, and we'll continue to look at it that way. So thank you, council. Thank you to the departments and specifically our treasurer bringing to us a budget that made it a lot easier to move forward. And you've got up another big one that we talk about every year, and this is to the Cemetery Corporation. And this used to be an hour or two of budget was looking at, well, how much are we giving to the art center? How much are we giving to the senior center and to the teen center? And we've kind of set them as a line item in our budget. Cemetery went up a little bit this year because they've asked for a new piece of equipment, a new mowing piece of equipment, so it's in there. But I don't even know if it was talked about last night. It just went by as it was supposed to in our budget process. These are some of the things we fund every year. So perfect, right?
And then we have another one on here as well. We've got the capital budget.
So that's this great big page. If you can look, it's all of those things, and we get down to item number 48. So 48 things on the capital budget page that are mostly paid for by tax dollars
Mhm.
each year, but have some other ways of also taking some funds from reserves or from uh, previous years. We like the animal shelter. Previous
Mhm.
years we had committed certain amounts of funds to it. Wasn't enough to build it, but
Yep.
those funds are still there.
So it's carried, those funds were carried
They
forward from
always
the
carry
previous
forward.
budget?
Yep. So
Okay.
so even things that we,
Hmm.
and then of course on the back side of the capital budget, there's the things with the red lines that didn't make this year's page.
Oh.
But as I said, if we save enough money on some of the projects we get out this week at,
Mhm.
by the end of summer, we may be able to do some of the things that are on the back of this too. If not, they're the first things on next year's list too.
Mhm.
So in a lot of cases, we can just move them into the next pile.
And some of those things like the cricket pitch at Cowan?
Yeah, sorry, it didn't make it,
Yeah.
but it's on there now, and it's about $100,000. So it's one of those things. If we
Hmm.
save $100,000 on the total streets program, or on the Kane Street program, or the fire truck comes in at $100,000 saving, any
Mhm.
of these things can accumulate up to, okay, what's next on the list? And so some of them are just plain capital works. There's some airport maintenance on the garage there. There's Pinafore Park shelter.
Mhm.
There's a replacement, a shelter that needs to be done. Ideally, 2024 would have been right, but
Mhm.
2025 it can be, and it will.
It's
It
not
will
like a
move.
water main, it's not gonna
No,
blow?
it's not. It will be okay, but we
Mhm.
wish we could do it too. One of the other things we look at each year in budgets is what we call asset management. The city
Mhm.
owns about $9 billion worth of assets. That's
Oh.
sewer pipes, pollution control, water pipes, sidewalks,
Yeah.
roads, right? And so we're at about a 90% good rate, either fair or good, on
Mhm.
all of our assets.
Hmm.
When a city can have that type of a rating, we can always say, okay, we know where the next worst street is. And remember, we talked about this 2 years ago about
Yeah.
Talbot Street. We had to get Talbot Street there. Now we're talking about it, about Keynes
Mhm.
and Curtis and Scott Street. Yes. And next year there's more that have to move into that. But as a city, because we haven't tried to do 0% increases, which really makes you
Mhm.
not get things done. We've done small enough increases to let the taxpayers have some relief at their homes.
Mhm.
Then our asset base is in pretty good shape, including our airport was starting to show as being very low on the asset base. But over the
Mhm.
last 2 years, we've paved a runway, we've done some other things, the
Mhm.
apron at work out there too, with the help of the federal government. And
Mhm.
so now it's moved its way up into not under critical times in the asset base. Well, who knew all this stuff? But we get a good lesson in it each year from our chief engineer and from our treasurer.
Mhm.
And unlike some other communities, I'll take this one over
Mhm.
theirs. Our budgets come to us with a good comparison to last year. So we're
Mhm.
seeing, well, wait, why are we spending so much more this year? Or why aren't we spending more this year than last year?
Mhm.
And so that the council can take a really good look and say, that's appropriate. Now, our police budget, for example, shows a significant, not a significant, but one of the biggest increases this year.
Mhm.
And every one of them makes perfectly good sense. It's about our special constables. It's about equipment for the police, and
Mhm.
our fire department with a new pumper in it and some other things, also showing an increase. But as we grow as a community, we have to talk about that safety element, the public
Mm.
safety piece, police and fire for sure, as being some of the best places for us to put our money. And so that's also what's occurred this year.
Very good. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Now, we've also had a bunch of events that have been happening all week
Well, it
long,
seems like we don't have a night without them anymore, or a day even
or a
without them.
day. I
So
know there's always
Uh,
like a million
I
different
know
things that are
you're
going
always
on.
doing Beehive and other things, and so there's all sorts of events, right?
So we talked about Illuminate
Yes,
last week at
yes,
Faith Church,
right.
and it
Llamas.
was
Where's the llama? Why
the
are we,
the
I mean, I just
here.
seen
Let me.
people.
I got this. I got this. You want the alpacas? We got the
Alpacas,
alpacas.
alpacas, not llamas.
Yeah.
Okay, there really was an alpaca there. That's not a stuffed one. That's a real one.
They were
right?
all live. They were
Yeah.
all live,
Yeah.
and the kids were there, and the snow globe.
Yes.
You guys remember
Did
we
you get a
talked?
picture inside the snow globe
You know what? There were so many kids
that wanted to be in the
that
snow
I,
globe?
as you
Right.
know, I felt bad, and
You
the
didn't
lineup
push kids
was.
aside and say, "Excuse me, wait, I'm
I
Grayden from Established Media." Yeah,
if people didn't know who I was, I might have.
yeah, but yeah, you're
But I
you're
was
easily identified.
Yeah,
so,
people
yeah.
know who I am now, so I can't get away with it. But from a distance, I
So
got to
it's fun. It was a
appreciate.
fun thing. The snow globe
It
was
was
well, right?
amazing. It was like
And
it was
there's a tunnel of lights.
a
Yes,
tunnel of lights.
right.
Yep, yep. And the people were taking the photos in the
Yep.
tunnel of lights. This one I love. If you look at the girl looking at one, I'm assuming it's a friend or a brother
Through the snow globe.
through the snow globe. I loved that.
I'm
and then
stuck
like
inside.
you know,
Yeah.
I think that's probably her mother there or a
Right.
friend like getting a photo of the whole. I was like, that's
Perfect.
awesome.
Yeah.
Just awesome. And the vendors were all inside as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and it turned into be a December night.
Yeah.
I mean, it was rainy out, not snowy, but there so much space inside and so many of the events happening indoors that look at the crowd still.
Yeah, so this is a shot from the inside here,
Right.
which is just like packed.
Yep.
It was
Way to
lovely.
go, Faith Church! What a great event. Earlier that afternoon, of course, the old church had the
Yep.
the carol sing.
Mhm.
Councillor Peters tells me there was over 300 people there, which is
Wow.
well, I mean, you know the size of the old church.
Yeah, not that big.
No,
You just had your wedding there.
yeah. So we know what the size of it was. So that was
Yeah.
also great. That was Sunday, both of those events. So,
Yeah.
and I would expect that many people did both.
I think they
Right.
did. Yeah, it was.
I think Ann Ashfield, I don't know Ann on tonight,
Oh.
said, "Well, I was at one cold church and one warm church." And that's what a great way to put it. I'm sure it was Ann that said that. So
Huh.
perfect.
And
Oh,
then
look what else happened last week.
on Thursday we had the Golden Hammers. Just
Yes.
you know, it's the awards for our builders and sub trades.
Right.
And it's a fantastic event, and it gets better every year.
Well, and there's no group in our community we don't need to recognize as much as our home builders, as our apartment builders, as
Yeah.
the people that help our city grow to that extent also. And some great companies winning it last year at last week at the Golden Hammers
Absolutely. You have to recognize excellence in the field. And we also had the Canadian Home Builders Association president
Yes.
here, as well as the Ontario Home Builders
Right.
Association
Well,
president.
the Canadian Home Builders president is from our area.
Yeah, Sue Westell.
Yeah.
She's from
So-
London and builds in St. Thomas,
Built
Port Stanley.
and in Port Stanley. So it's great to get to see Sue at different events. And this group used to lobby us a lot as a federal
Yeah.
member. And I think it was Doug Terry for a period of time.
Mhm.
So much representation on the national home builders and on the provincial home builders from St. Thomas or Elgin County.
It's incredible, actually. Yeah. And you know, little old St. Thomas, and everyone's having a good time. So a lot of fun was had. This is Casey's Creative
What
Kitchens.
happened on Saturday?
Let me tell you, Santa came to town.
Yes.
And we'll skip through all the pictures. There's so many pictures of the Golden Hammers.
Right.
It's hard to pick, like which
Right.
what
No,
to show here.
Trust me, if you were there, look for yourself. If you weren't there, why weren't you? Right. And I was one that was still fairly ill that night and was not able to go.
You were supposed to
And
be
so
there, but
I was.
yeah.
But who needed the speech from Joe? No.
Yeah.
No.
So
Saturday.
yeah,
We did
we doubled the
down-
time on
Right.
downtown Santa.
Yes, we did. And Downtown Development Board. And I was explaining that today to CTV while I was up front of City Hall
Oh,
talking
right on.
about, and Earl came up. So
Yeah.
we started talking about Downtown Santa on Saturday, and he couldn't believe that our downtown BIA
Mm-hmm.
does this, right? So maybe a story in the future on it, but Santa visiting many, many businesses downtown, almost all of them. Truly, almost all
we did
of
our
them
best
over.
to get to as many as
Right.
possible that were open. And if there was no one in the store at the time, so what we were doing is we were paying for the purchases of
Right.
people
Santa
or a
would
portion of their
gift-
purchase.
Right, a portion of their purchase or their purchase. And sometimes we would get into a store where there wasn't a customer at that
Mhm.
moment. It's ideal if we can walk in and somebody's in there just about to buy.
Yeah.
So what happens when they're not? What does Santa offer then?
They buy a gift. Santa buys a gift card.
Right. And says to the business, either we'll hand it out or
Mm-hmm.
it says to the business, you tell your next customer that walks in, Santa was just here and this much is coming off your purchase, or you're
Yeah.
giving this gift card to buy your next purchase. What a great way to do it. Hey, Cliff, what's up? Right.
So this is Cliff Barwick was out, and we got a picture with him and Santa,
Right.
and
Well,
he's a former mayor.
well, great. He was a mayor here for a while, but Cliff, I think, was around when Santa was born.
Well, he seemed to know him. He seemed to know him.
Or Cliff used to date Mrs. Claus before she settled with Santa.
But they worked it all out.
Yeah, they got it all.
They
done.
ironed it out.
He's still on the good list.
Yeah.
Al Hewson,
Another local dignitary.
Right. Well, Santa would know Al. He's not on the naughty list. He's on the good list.
Yeah, one of the most generous community members we have in our area here, and of course,
here at look at that beautiful wall, and this is in the new Ruby Blues. If you haven't been to the new Ruby Blues store, get on down there. It is just, first of all, there is everything to reason to go there just for their goodies. Mm-hmm. What a great big shop it is. Yeah. But now it is gorgeous inside. There's a couple of seating areas that you can actually have a coffee and have some good food, or sit there and have great conversations. So Santa stopped and met some people who were in there shopping. We bought some of their what they're buying from Ruby Blues. You imagine getting free Ruby Blues? Oh,
right. That's what dreams are made of.
Yes. And so at the bistro
as well,
we found a few people having a late lunch. Yeah. Sorry, Santa found a few people having late lunch, and we took some money off their lunches, and they were quite pleased with that. Yeah,
yeah. No, it was just an incredible time out on Saturday in the community.
No, look, so we've gone through since early November, lighting the tree. Light up Talbot, great crowds downtown for that. The Santa Claus Parade on the 18th. The
Christmas market at Horton.
The Christmas market.
The After Dark market.
And then now downtown Santa. Well,
and the 100 people who care.
100 people. There's been more, but all downtown.
All the bazaar. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Right.
The church bazaars that are going on.
I want to let you know that downtown St. Thomas has just boomed back to life since the finish of the construction. Yeah. I guess we should have talked about Pumpkin Prowl before that even, and the Oktoberfest even before that. But the number of events downtown, we're hearing nothing as the mayor, as Santa, as mayor's update, we're hearing nothing but, wow, has St. Thomas downtown ever turned itself back into a great place to be and shop and feel safe? And of course, the chief will tell you the use of our special constables has really made a difference downtown too. Sure. So we welcome. Please come downtown and finish some of your shopping.
Yeah, and we've got a couple comments in here. Austin McNulty says hi, and hi, Austin. He got a great shot of all of us, Santa.
I saw that
from his apartment.
Yep,
it was amazing. Mark McKnight saying, great job on reduction. So that's to you and council for doing that.
Perfect. Budget. Thank you for noticing our budget work. And over the next year, you'll really notice that, I think, with all the growth we'll have, but at a pretty good rate for taxes.
Totally. Faye Gallagher says hi. Hi, Faye.
Hi, Faye.
And Mark McKnight says also the MRI and hospice are important. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
And she had Cliff as a teacher, Cliff Barwick.
Oh, wow. Was that in a one-room schoolroom with a slate? No, I'm just teasing. I make fun of Cliff all the time, and he'll understand I'm making fun, right? But that's great.
Right? Okay, we've got a question from Dale Cummings here.
Right.
Good evening, guys. Has the city ever looked at opening a treatment center for addictions with municipal, provincial, and federal funding?
Not only have we looked at it, we did it.
Yeah.
Right. We went and hammered on the door of the Associate Minister for Mental Health and Addictions and got some pretty good funding for the city of St. Thomas and the CMHA. Currently operating, first of all, 3 beds from a July 1st, now a 7-bed facility on detox and rehab. And over 300 people have used those beds
since you opened it?
Since it was opened in July. We continue to ask that same minister, it's municipal because it's healthcare. We continue to ask, hey, look at our success, help us out.
Provincial?
Provincial. Minister Tabulo and the Minister of Health for Ontario also. Minister Tabulo is the Associate Minister for Mental Health and Addictions, and he's been just great helping out our community. It's taken a little bit of prodding, but look at where we are. we commend what CMHA has been able to do on that, and want them to do more. With a little more funding, they can do more. They're having some staffing issues. This takes 24-hour nursing for us to run this facility, for CMHA to run the facility. It's not a city-run facility, but we continue to work on finding them funding to run it. So Dale, thank you for bringing it up and giving us a chance to talk about what we've been working on. And if you want to also put in that same category, all of our supportive housing, this 45 units at Queen Street and the 16 units at Rail City Lofts, and any we do in the future, all have 24-hour-a-day mental health and addiction support too. So the connection between CMHA on the addiction side carries over to the 24-hour support in our supportive housing too. We're moving people from a life of troubled mental health and addictions as quickly as a community can. Some it will not work the first time. No failure. It's get back and do it again. Make another life choice to do a better job of coming off drugs or getting help with your mental health. So we'll continue to do it.
And Beth Douglas says, "Hi there. Will there be lots of people happy about the animal shelter?" Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. We said we would do it. We said the minute we can get the total funding in place, we will do it.
And follow up, shout out to the special constables downtown. Are we adding to their number?
Yes. In this budget solidifies their number at 6. At police board the other day, we talked about where would that end up, and in order to add, I won't say 24 hours a day, but to stretch their hours, we continue to talk. Met with 2 of them today at an event we were having down at the social services building, and had a great talk with them. And you should see the smiles on their face. They love the work they do, and I'm really pleased with them. Look, expect this to grow, but expect so many other communities to come to see what we've done. This is what else is happening, Grayden and Beth, is many other communities are noticing we're now using this system, especially as a safety measure in our downtown, and they're coming to see, how did you do it? And how they can talk their service officers into saying this is a great way for them to go about strictly policing as police constables, and let our special constables deal with some of the things in the core. So really is working.
And Margaret Knight says, yes, lol, no computers, cell phones. Joe, you and I are close in age.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're talking about learning from Cliff.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No.
Right.
Well,
certainly in those days there was, yes, you did.
And people need access for it all. Absolutely.
Right. And so part of what the CMHA, that's the Canadian Mental Health Association, and Addictions Ontario is now one group. So they're working on the next step for them, and what we're pushing more, and I'll do some of it at Roma in January, is to talk about also crisis beds. We've talked about addiction beds and a great need, and we can get the funding for that even better. But we also have the place where we don't have to jail people or incarcerate people who are having a mental health crisis, and we just have crisis beds for them. It's a lot simpler for the police to deal with, and that's the next step. This community continues to lead the way on some of those projects and will continue to.
We're running to the end of our time. If anyone has a last question.
I guess we talked about budget too much, didn't we?
You got to sneak it in. We have about a minute left here.
Well, let's hear the one big question out there.
But if it doesn't come in right away,
we didn't talk about this one. We have for New Year's Eve, council passed last night free transit for New Year's Eve, and no free parking or parking, the ability
Parking
to park
overnight?
your car on the street overnight. So we don't want anybody drinking and driving. Please, this is the solution to that. Look it up on our city website on what times it takes place and the availability of transit. And please, no partying on the bus. Don't get 12 people and drive around on a bus and think, hey, that's the best New Year's Eve party I've ever had.
Because we want to be able to do this every year.
No, right. We want to be able to exactly do that every year. And as we look at it forward in our new strategic plan, we'll be looking even deeper and broader at what transit can be in our community.
Fantastic. Well, Mayor Joe, Thanks again for
It's
everything
great.
this week and
Yep.
this evening, taking your time out of your week to come and do this show.
Right.
And
Now,
thanks to, yeah,
real quick, next week I'm Germany on Tuesday, leaving for Germany
Yeah.
on Tuesday night to go see Volkswagen and PowerCo.
yeah.
And so watch your watch your
We'll figure it
computer
out. We're going to figure
as
this
to
out.
when we'll do mayor's update next week, but we won't miss a week. We'll get it in somehow, right? Because there'll be lots to talk about after I get back too. So
Oh, it's
we've
gonna
got
be
to make
incredible.
sure we
Yeah.
talk about that the week after.
All right. Everyone,
Thanks.
take care. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.